The Wendigo. A creature originating from folklore of Native American tribes located around Canada and the Great Lakes. The creature is what comes from a person who's possessed by an evil spirit when they show insatiable greed in the form of cannibalism. This transforms them from an everyday person into a beast that hungers for human flesh. Its appearance is varied from folklore to adaptations, where some show it with an animal skull head, others show it with a very tall and lanky man, almost like a stretched out Gollum from Lord of the Rings. The one thing that is consistent between all adaptations is its stretched skin over its bones, some of which are protruding out of its body. These together make it look malnourished and starving, and the reason for that is because it's always hungry for fresh human meat. One problem I always have with the Wendigo's design is the animal head design itself. I always feel like it doesn't really capture the human side of the Wendigo, and where, yes, a Wendigo is so far gone it's not human anymore, but it still has that slight semblance. That's why I kind of like the supernatural Until Dawn look of it, where it still has some semblance of being human in it, but it's just not enough to save it from its horrible tendencies, and what it gave up just become that creature. Though any of you watching probably already know what this creature is from media like Supernatural and Until Dawn in the first place, so you're probably wanting me to get on with a video, so why don't we do that? Really quick, just to set the ground, in this video I want to set up an interesting D&D encounter using this creature. And there's a lot of different versions for 5e, but the two I want to look at is the CR3 one from the homebrew page on the D&D wiki, and the CR9 Wendigo from the Critter Compendium. The reason I chose these two is while the Wendigo is a terrifying creature, and it can be very menacing, we also gotta remember, two dudes with a flare gun killed it in one shot, so why not make the two scenarios to use them in one for a weaker take, and then just one for a little bit more of a spooky one. First off, let's go with the weaker of the two, the CR3 Wendigo. Showing its stats here, we can see it's decent foe, with some good resistances and immunities, as well as something important to point out that it speaks one language, generally common, which can definitely set up some spooky mind games. Now you may notice it doesn't have very unique attack options, just simple claws and bites, but something to note is the potential necrotic damage on the bite, making the attack far more lethal than at first glance. Something to note about this creature is its ambusher, mimicry, and mask of the wild, which really show this creature's true strengths, which are hit and run tactics. The creature can snatch up a party member, bring them to the lair, and then go without anyone noticing. For a scenario, imagine you and your party walking through a snowy forest with a snowstorm just starting to pick up, and one of your party members is asked to make a perception roll, and then they fail, and then they get lost from the party in the snow. The party then tries to find the player, and then they hear, "Help me, please!" and the player you just lost's voice coming from the distance. As though another party member comes and tries to find them, they fail another perception check, getting them split from the party. And then to make things even worse, this is most likely a lower level party. These aren't no seasoned adventurers who fought vile creatures day in and day out. Chances are they have had some tough fights, but none that just got rid of two party members out of the blue. But what happens if the party rolls really well? What if you got someone with good wisdom and a proficiency in perception? What do you do then? Well, who said there had to be just one Wendigo, huh? As we saw in Until Dawn, it's completely possible for there to be more than one Indigo in an area. Just because one person starved and ate a person in the tundra, what's stopping one more person from doing the same? Now imagine this lower level party, while aware of the threat, now has to fight two starved freaks and try and keep them from ripping them to shreds. Now the one problem with all of this is that they're weak to fire, and most casters get access to this sort of fire-based spell, even at the lowest levels, like a few well-placed shot and your big spooky cannibal man is a pile of ash on the ground. Now one last interesting scenario for this is, well, a night situation, while the party is camping. With that 60-foot dark vision, it could make a very dangerous foe to a group lacking dark vision, which is kinda rare, but let's just imagine a human, a warforged, and a dragonborn are together in the woods. The next thing they know, the guy who's doing watch just got snatched in the middle of the night, or something came out of the bushes and just pounced on him before they could even think about it. Overall, it can be a very terrifying encounter, whether you want to use it to scare a bunch of low-level players, or maybe have a whole pack of them just to attack a high-level group of characters. This creature definitely has a lot of potential. Now, the much more terrifying alternative to the CR3 Wendigo, we now deal with the CR9 Wendigo, and I say it's terrifying for a reason. Now, something to point out, instead of being a monstrosity, this one is considered a large fiend, specifically a demon. And while one could say a Wendigo is a demon possessing a person, I feel like it's not tied to something like the Abyss, and rather is someone being molded into a beast by a spirit, so it isn't fighting in any blood wars or tied to the Abyss. It's more just monsters that terrorize and slaughter those who are fortunate enough to run into it. So maybe just a quick flavor change is switching out its abyssal language for common or other language, but common would be probably the best one. And then just keep the telepathy, because it's an interesting spin that will definitely come in handy in this scenario. One other little quarrel I have is its resistances. While non-magical weapons I'm okay with, it makes a lot of sense. Like, guns can't kill a Wendigo, it only slows them down and pisses them off, but fire? Why is it resisting fire? Fire is the one thing in media where it's a weakness. Cue the clip of Deem shooting Wendigo. Along with fire resistance, another one that kind of rubs me the wrong way is lightning resistance. I mean, in a technical sense, wouldn't a blast of lightning be just as, or if not more effective than some fire? Lightning strikes a tree in a forest, and what happens? It starts a fire. Is this one a little bit too nitpicky? Maybe, but I feel like there's no reason for it to resist it, but there's also no reason for it to not be. So do with that what you please. That one's less. Just make sure it has the weakness to fire, because I feel like that's just kind of essential. Now for this scenario, we're definitely dealing with a more experienced party. A lot more fights under the belt, and how about for this scenario, the setting is in a frozen island covered in trees, said to not have anyone who went there to ever be seen again. And the players have to find an adventuring group who went to explore it. Because, you know, people always gotta go to the islands that nobody ever comes back from. So as the party explores the island, they kind of just get these clues that something happened here. They'll find like a pile of bones with a bag next to it. And in that bag, there's a journal detailing what happened to this poor group of people. But eventually night comes and they have to set up in a cave nearby. At this point in the night, the party probably hears "help me" scream through the woods. And are probably thinking, oh, we've got to help them. There's survivors around here. Next thing they know, they're now in a dense snowstorm with a vicious Wendigo. Now, something to note about this Wendigo is it has a little ability called Beyond Sight, and as long as it's 25 feet away from the party, it's completely invisible. And now that's going to basically make it impossible to find, not just because it gets a +10 to stealth, it has advantage on every stealth roll, and that gives everyone else disadvantage on trying to find it. Once they have true sight, which could be possible at a higher level, but you never know. And what's worse is now he can just go in and out of invisibility, snatching up party member after party member. Especially the smaller ones, how are they going to struggle, right? Now on the off chance they do find him right away, they now have to deal with this ability where if they're within 40 feet of him, they now have to make a 17 DC wisdom saving throw or else be frightened. And the only way to avoid that is averting your eyes, which won't make it easy to hit at all with that disadvantage and being in the snowstorm and it being at night and you're dealing with a super mega ultra death cannibal. Now the difference between this one and the CR3 one is A, it has 3 attacks instead of 2, and its bite attack now sucks the life out of its opponents, which is pretty nice. The real coup de grace of this creature is its Hunger from Fear ability that affects anyone frightened in a 60-foot range of the Wendigo. This makes the sorry sap have to do a DC 17 wisdom saving throw or else be charmed to the Wendigo for an hour. And not just any charm, it also makes you attack anyone nearby you other than the Wendigo, which probably is your party members. And to make insult to injury, if you don't bite down someone on your turn, you take 4d8 psychic damage. Now, the one saving grace for the party members in this situation is that they can recover each turn by making a saving throw of the same DC. But a terrifying thought is being the only party member immune to fear, and then having the rest of your party turn to feral beasts as they try to rip you to bits. And what probably makes it even worse, you've probably been traveling with these people for months, maybe years, and then the whole psyche of the party is just broken down. And it could really make an interesting roleplay situation where the one person that got through all that can't trust the rest of his party now, after seeing what they did. With that, those are my 2 scenarios for this video. Definitely some spooky shit for sure. My overall goal with this was just to make an encounter that really made the party think cautiously, instead of going gung-ho into a fight, which I know I am guilty of doing as a player, but, you know. I also really like the potential roleplay aspects to this after the fact of the fight. Imagine 2 characters are brother and sister, and then you have to watch your sister be abducted or turned feral by this super spooky cannibalistic beast. It's a really interesting concept, and after writing this script, I probably won't be able to enter any state higher than North Carolina just to feel safe at night. But with that, that's the end of the video. I hope you guys enjoyed this. It's definitely a new type of video, but over the past year and a half now, I've gotten really into D&D. It's become just like a passion of mine more than like video games at this point. It's just something I really love, and I also get really into cryptid stuff, no matter how much it terrifies me. And what better thing to combine, right? But I don't want to limit this to just like cool cryptid creatures. I mean, D&D has a lot of cool shit in it. So give me suggestions for any creatures that you want me to make a cool video like this on. I definitely want to start doing more of these. This is something I actually enjoyed making. It took a bit longer to make than I did because I'm just lazy. But also, if I made any mistakes, bear with me. I've only been a DM for like a couple months at this point, but I've been playing for a year and a half, so it's definitely not my expertise, but I've looked a lot into this, so I know some stuff. But I also will probably slip up a lot. But yeah, and I'll put all links to the sources in the description if you want to know that, and probably also for the music that I use for this. And with that, I hope you guys enjoyed. Ciao.